You're just too good to be true.
In 2019, we were awarded a grant by the Crewe Foundation, and it was for an exhibition that would celebrate the queer gaze through interdisciplinary work and would pay tribute in some way to Bob Crewe, who wrote these incredible songs like Can't Take My Eyes Off You, where we get our show title. And Bob Crewe wrote love songs primarily that are likely not about heterosexual love. And so we wanted to celebrate queer joy, queer existence, and the many faceted expressions that can come in.
We have a large scope of work that's being shown in the exhibition, from some video work to ceramics. We have 2D work, we have some textile pieces, as well as some mixed media work as well. So there's a really incredible wide scope of both visual arts being represented here in the gallery, as well as public programming here and out in the larger Maine community itself, engaging with the larger LGBTQI+ community.
I read kind of like what the show was about, and I was thinking about what I wanted to bring to this conversation, you know, but really thinking about what does it mean to be a part of a community. I think it's always just really important to remember how queer love, community, bodies, sense of being together is just, I think, like a sacred thing to create. It's very easy to not think about how important art is and art shows, and just like creating these like moments where we can celebrate. And kind of, I think what's really great about this show is that it's really multidimensional, and like the type of work that's here and like the way that people are talking about queerness, that I think is really refreshing. Like there's a sense of vulnerability and being messy, and you know, not having to feel like we have to like present a very like perfect image, you know, or a very assimilated image. But it's very, I feel like all the work here speaks a lot about intimacy in really interesting ways. The sandwich board is a tool that I've been playing around with a little bit for the past few years. It's this form of communication, usually used for advertising, but not always, but usually a sandwich board has text on it, so it's informational. And when we kind of, you know, approach a sandwich board in front of a cafe or in front of a store, we think like first read it to like get the information that then like clues us to another form or story or person or place. So this piece has text by Lucille Clifton, a quote that says, or poem that says, "Won't you celebrate with me that every day someone has tried to kill us and has failed?" And I love Lucille's work, and it felt like this kind of like perfect encapsulation of this show that Faythe has dreamed up.
Food has always been the way I show love and how people in my family show love to each other. And as soon as we went into lockdown and into this pandemic, that was one thing that I was longing for so much, was to be able to gather in that way and share food with others. And so I made this series when I was here in residence at Speedwell. And while I was painting them, I was really just reflecting on all of those moments and who and where and when I wish I could have been holding space for others during hardship or celebration when I couldn't actually be there. The themes of love and queerness really spoke to me because I think specifically during this time of being a pandemic, we all had to find new ways to just exist, which I think for me is like what it means to be queer and existing in a world that wasn't necessarily meant for you.
Yeah, as part of this show, you know, the invitation was very much about like And right sort of after the invitation came to me, I went through a really hard breakup. And so it's been the process of figuring out like how to create for a show about queerness and about love, while also being in like a pretty like ruminative, heartachy space, was just its own adventure. Yeah, I ended up kind of like being like creating a lot of this one shape, and was like really into kind of being in lots of versions of this one shape, using this kind of new process. And I agreed to do the window of the gallery before learning that it was like 22 feet long. So it was then a process of like, okay, how do I fill this space too? So yeah.
I was the very first person in the United States in 1966 to be kicked out of the American Peace Corps for sucking dick. Yes, it's my chair. I've been wearing it for 50 years. No one stepped forward to claim the prize yet. It's my prize.
When I was an adult, I looked back and I realized that all of the songs that I loved growing up were not explicitly gay, but there may be ways for me as a queer kid to recode them so that they could be queer. And so a lot of the songs that you see on this piece, they may not seem gay, right? They're not songs about being gay, although some of them certainly are. But they were songs that I managed to find some kind of little token or symbol or piece of that I was able to recode as queer for myself. I love that embroidery and fiber art in general have historically, just as women weren't, given, white women primarily weren't given the time and the space to become artists on their own, that they use those as creative vehicles for telling their stories. In that way, this is in that genre and still in that vein, I believe, where I'm allowed to tell the story of myself and my history in my life through a vehicle that's generally considered a craft, or generally considered or dismissed as women's work, etc.
The work that's part of this exhibition, for me, a lot of what's important about what's being represented here in the gallery is showing the wide range and the scope of representation within queer community itself. Not making assumptions about people and being reminded about what that means in a very multifaceted way is incredibly important. And so that's something that I think I spoke to specifically in my curatorial statement, but also along the process of communicating with the artists about the intention of what we were trying to create here. I think that the power of visibility and representation is so incredible, and it can take one moment of seeing something that can change your life. A really great example is one of our artists was giving their class remotely today during install, and during class one of the students gave feedback saying that they never knew that there could be an exhibition focusing on trans bodies or non-binary bodies, and just knowing that one student who's just starting out, their educational path within the arts had that experience from a Zoom class today feels really powerful to me. So I'm really excited about what this exhibition could potentially open up for certain people who have access to it and are able to see it.
For us, an exhibition like this is incredibly timely. In a way, the delay of COVID has caused this show to be incredibly politically relevant. Trans rights are being erased, are being threatened nationally in really serious and scary ways. And to celebrate queer artists in a show like this means a lot to us, and we wanted to make sure that the curatorial voice and all of the artists were represented in authentic and honest ways. So we're very grateful that Faythe Levine brought this community of artists together.
I feel really honored to be a part of this show and to be seeing all the work that people are making. I don't know, I keep going back to how strange the world feels right now, but I think it's amazing that people are still making and doing what their heart needs to create beauty in a world that feels pretty scary right now.
You're just too good to be true. Can't take my eyes off of you. You be like heaven to touch. I wanna hold you so much. At long last, love has arrived, and I thank God I'm alive. You're just too good to be true. Can't take my eyes off of you. Caught in the way that I stare. There's nothing else to compare. The sight of you leaves me weak. There are no words left to speak. But if you feel like I feel, please let me know that it's real. You're just too good to be true. Can't take my eyes off of you.